Now, the first title from Prime Matter will be the beautiful, highly anticipated King's Bounty 2. We have a first look at the gameplay trailer, and then Opal got a chance to sit down and talk with CEO Nikolay Baryshnikov.
The balance is off. Our land, Nostria, dances on the knife's edge of fate. King Claudius, my father, cannot lead, and his absence has set the realm in motion. Something is coming. Now the burden of the crown falls onto me. Nostria was flourishing, but there is unrest.
It used to be beautiful here. My wife and I had a nice life then.
Conspiracy, sabotage, necromancy. They all threaten this land asunder. But we must unite, for distorted terrors are advancing. Rumors tell of a false prophet, putting our hope in something that does not exist. A seer foretells that our Savior is among us. People of Nostria, you laid faith in my father, do so to me. We must look towards the horizon, fight back the darkness, and preserve the light of our land. For Nostria!
Guys, thanks for joining me, and I am joined by Nikolay Baryshnikov from 1C Entertainment, who is CEO and creator of King's Bounty 2. So King's Bounty has been years in development and has a 30-year pedigree. So what is it that makes King's Bounty 2 so special?
The original King's Bounty was a grandfather of games of series like Heroes of Might and Magic. So it created these turn-based gameplay when we have a hexed-based battlefield and the troops are moving in turns, like chess pieces on the board. So I think that's the key. The cornerstone of King's Bounty.
Absolutely, and kind of speaking about that, and I know as you mentioned, the first King's Bounties was 1990, and then you had the King's Bounty that you guys created in the 2000s. What technical improvements, now that we're in 2021, are you most excited about implementing into the new King's Bounty 2?
Well, I'm a huge fan of the core aspect of the game with tactical battles. And if in the previous games the battlefield was always a flat surface, so now we're bringing the battlefield into 3D. So we will have line of sights, hills. Like simple example, if your archers are located on the hill, they will do like extra damage for the high ground, etc. So moving the battlefield to 3D is a huge step forward. And then the whole role-playing part, the exploration part, we decided to move more towards games like Fable or Mass Effect, kind of epic, big role-playing games, as opposed to have a top-down kind of isometric view of tiny little character on a horse just galloping around the map. So we are moving towards this kind of epic fantasy adventure. Because this is not like a small indie title anymore. This is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, production we've done in Moscow so far.
So speaking of the other King's Bounty games, will this King's Bounty 2 follow the other stories of the games, or will it be a standalone title?
No, the game will not follow on any previous games. But even the previous King's Bounties, they all sort of like disconnected. There was like the main protagonist, there are a bunch of evil guys. There's like a small quest. And I would say that a previous King's Bounty, it was not like an epic RPG adventure. So the game was more about just battling random monsters on the map. And solving some little quests. And then King's Bounty 2 is really, a epic adventure We had spent like dozens of hours solving puzzles, working with different factions, making decisions that change the character and the world. So we're really moving much more towards an epic RPG. However, this is a rare combination where our game, King's Bounty, is not an action RPG. It's not a Witcher game where you have to, quickly press buttons on your joysticks and battle enemies in the field. It's interesting crossbreed of a high fantasy role-playing game with a tactical strategy title, which it's not like quote unquote was never done on console, but this is fairly unique combination for the console. And for me, like a great inspiration was a modern remake of XCOM, for example, because I was a huge fan of XCOM that was released in 1994, 1996, and the modern console reinventing of XCOM. This is something we're trying to achieve with King's Bounty, really make a modern game that works well on modern platforms, that works well with current understanding of gamers, how a game should look like. So we're trying to enhance it in every possible direction.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Kind of speaking about the story of King's Bounty 2 and how it differs, it appears to have a darker, more gritty aesthetic compared to its predecessors. What was the design philosophy around that? Why did you decide to go with that instead?
That's an interesting question. We've been debating on the design approach. And again, as I said, we spent a lot of time prototyping, working on the core gameplay and the looks and the art of the game. Previous game had this more cartoonish, kind of fancy indie look, but we decided we are now trying to play in different league. We're trying to make a much bigger title, a big game, an epic adventure. We've been, astonished by, modern fantasy titles, both in Hollywood and in games. And we thought that this is a good idea, actually, to upgrade King's Bounty to what we call like high fantasy or like realistic fantasy. So it's not a dark fantasy like Kingdom Come, when they're like, dirty peasants, everything is bad. No, it's more like, as I said, like high fantasy, epic characters. If there's a dragon, it looks like a dragon, not like a toy. If there's a villain, he or she looks like a real bad person. So that was the main philosophy. Plus, game development evolves, and I don't think that it's a good idea to, take a game of 2008 and just make a replica with slightly enhanced graphics in 2021. So you need, especially for consoles, there's a specific expectation from somebody coming to the store or buying the game digitally or online. Okay, this is like a $49, $59 game. It has to look graphically and gameplay-wise like this. There's an expectation, and we believe that that's what we have to do.
Yeah, so we've mentioned that this game combines different kind of like ways that you can play the game, basically, from third-person RPG elements to this unique fighting system, this kind of chess-like fighting system. Kind of, why did you choose, with the evolution of game design and how people play games, why did you choose to stick to these hybrid game mechanics? Do you think that this is kind of what makes King's Bounty King's Bounty?
Absolutely. I think you got it spot on, so I don't even need to answer. King's Bounty is again, is a grandfather of turn-based games. So if you remove tactical combat from King's Bounty, then it becomes, I don't know, Mass Effect or Kingdom Come. So so we can play around with evolution of this gameplay, make it more fun or realistic. But obviously, this is the core. So this is a tactical game with a lot of role-playing aspects and high fantasy aspects, and not the other way around. So again, gamers who like RPG with shooting elements, games like Cyberpunk, this King's Bounty is probably not for them. I'm sorry, it's a different game.
Yeah, and in terms of we've mentioned kind of this new 3D world that you're creating when it comes to the fighting style, and then these RPG mechanics and making this world feel more alive and more exciting. What was actually the hardest part of you making the game? What took the longest time? What kind of caused you the most headaches?
Hard to say. Again, first of all, this is a multiple platform game, so there are specific technical issues that prolong the development. If you make just, let's say, a PC title or just a PlayStation game, then you are not having a headache of porting to different platforms, getting different specifications, TCRs, approvals. So that adds a lot. And then secondly, the production itself, as soon as we went away from this kind of cartoonish easy looking isometric view into a 3D high fantasy and the production of assets. So we wanted to build like a huge map. We wanted to populate this map with a lot of characters that would just move around, go somewhere, have their own like stories. Then we decided to, instead of having like text dialogues, we decided to produce a lot of engine-based cutscenes to push the story, to explain what's going on. So we even had to buy our own motion capture studio. We worked with like dozens of actors, and there are hours and hours and hours of in-game based cutscenes, which in the past could be just dialogues and pieces of text. That was another huge complication.
No, absolutely. And then the final question, what are the benefits of signing up with a global publisher like Koch and being on their brand new gaming label?
Oh, that provides us a lot of additional support because I'm not sure that all gamers understand how games get to the market. So making a game, writing pieces of code or drawing this amazing sketch of a dragon is only half of the puzzle. So it's like yin yang. You need a lot of support from production people, testing, localization, manufacturing retail units, putting all this units into the retail shops in the world, making mass market communications. So we decided to cooperate with Koch Media. That seemed to be the ideal partner. So we are on the market for many, many years. And I would say very honestly, I was personally a bit scared if we do it just ourselves, that we might not have the human resources to deliver the information about the game itself. We'll work with all the platform holders as effectively as in a co-production and co-publishing with such esteemed partners, Koch Media, Embracer Group. So I'm quite happy.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for your time, Nikolay. And I cannot wait for people to get their hands on King's Bounty 2.
Oh, me too. Trust me, me too. After 4 years of development, that's going to be one of the most exciting days for me in 2021.